Hi everyone, it's MJ here with another tutorial. I've been making a few crochet tote bags and one of them is this traditional granny square tote bag. So for today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make a traditional granny square with color changes. For this granny square, we'll be using 8-ply yarn in 4 different colors and a 4mm crochet hook, and we'll also need a yarn needle and scissors. Let's begin. So the first thing we need to do is make a loop. So let's go ahead and place a slip knot on our hook with our first color. Now we're going to chain 4. Now we're going to join to the first chain that we made. We're going to join with a slip stitch. Now that we've created our loop, we are going to work our stitches into this gap here that you see in the center. So for round 1, we're going to start with a chain 3. And this chain 3 will count as our first double crochet. Now we can work 2 double crochets into that loop. Chain 2 and work another 3 double crochets into the loop. Chain 2 again, and then make another 3 double crochets into the loop. Chain 2 again, and then work 3 double crochets into the loop. And then chain 2. If you find the gap widening, just give the tail a pull to close the loop. So now we're ready to finish our round, and to do that we are going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the first chain 3 that we made. Now we can fasten off and trim our yarn tail short, about 6 inches in length. Just give that tail a bit of a tug so that knot is secured in place. So what we've done here is, with the chain 2s that we created the corners for our square. So with each chain 2 we create a corner. Okay, so that's round 1 complete. For round 2, we'll be working our stitches into the corners of our square. We're going to use a new color, and I've gone ahead and placed a slip knot on my hook with the new color. So let's insert the hook into this corner and create a slip stitch so that our yarn is attached to our square, and we can begin round 2. Also, we'll put our yarn tails here at the back so that we can crochet over the tails and we don't have to worry about weaving them in later. So now we're going to start this round with a chain 3, and this always counts as our first double crochet. And then we're going to work 2 double crochets into that chain space. And then chain 2, and then work another 3 double crochet in that chain space. Okay, so as you can see, every time we work into a corner, we make another corner. So this is what makes traditional granny squares really easy to do. Alright, so we just do the exact same thing because we're just working on corners for this round. So for this corner, we're going to do the exact same thing, work 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then work another 3 double crochets. Okay, so again, for this corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And then one more time for this round, repeat those stitches for this last corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Okay, so to finish this round, we are going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first 3 chains that we did at the start. And then we fasten off and trim the yarn tail short about 6 inches in length. Pull the yarn tail tight, and that's round 2 complete. For round 3, We'll use a new color, and I've gone ahead and placed a slip knot on my hook. Now, I usually like to start at the corner to the right of where I fastened off from the previous round so that I can crochet over the yarn tails so that there is no need to weave in the tails afterwards. I hope that made sense. Okay, so insert the hook into this corner chain space, and then we're going to make a slip stitch so that we can attach our yarn to our square. So again, this is the first corner for this round, so we're going to chain 3, and this chain 3 always counts as our first double crochet. And then in the same chain space, we're going to work 2 double crochets. Then chain 2, and then 3 double crochets in that chain space. So now we have these clusters here, these 2 clusters, and there is a space between them. In this space, between the 2 clusters, we are going to work 3 double crochet stitches. And then we are once again working into a corner chain space. So we just repeat the corner stitches, which is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And then we have this space between these 2 clusters again. So every time we have a space between 2 clusters, we just work 3 double crochets into that space. And we are back at another corner chain space. So every time we have a corner chain space, we do our corner stitches, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And then you have the space between the clusters, and every time you see that space, you just work 3 double crochet stitches. And you just repeat that sequence all the way to the end of the round. So I'm just finishing the last double crochet stitches for this round, and now we can join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that we made at the beginning of the round. Fasten off, and then trim your yarn tail. Give it a little tug, and that's round 3 complete. Okay, so for round 4, which will be our last round, we are going to use a new color, and I've gone ahead and placed a slip knot on my hook, and then we're going to work in this corner chain space again to the right of that fastened off point. So go ahead and make a slip stitch to attach our yarn, and then we're going to work our corner stitches. So chain 3 at the beginning, then 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets again. Alright, so now we have this space between the clusters, so we work 3 double crochets in here. Same here as well, 3 double crochet stitches in this space. And then we're at a corner chain space again, so 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Okay, so just continue with that sequence of corner chain space stitches and cluster space stitches. I'm going to do the rest off camera, and I'll meet you when we're ready to join the round. Okay, so now I've finished the last stitches for this round, and now we can join with a slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that we made at the beginning. Okay, so let's fasten off and then trim the yarn tail. Alright, so that's our granny square all done. Now you can keep working on more rounds if you want. That's what makes this project really easy, because you can make your granny square as big or as small as you want, because the stitches are very straightforward. So corner stitches are just 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and then the spaces between the clusters are just 3 double crochets. Alright, so now let's get rid of all these yarn tails, but before you do, just do not snip these yarn tails just yet, but we can snip the ones that we have crocheted over. So before you trim off any yarns, just make sure they are weaved in thoroughly. Okay, so let's go ahead and weave in this yarn tail, this center yarn tail, so our work doesn't unravel. So we're just going to hide it behind these stitches here at the back. And then what I like to do, just for added security, is to do a little back stitch just to make sure that our yarn is not going to unravel. So I do this a few times. Then once I'm happy and I feel like it's secured enough, I'll trim the yarn. And then we're going to do the same thing with this yarn tail. We're just going to hide it behind these stitches at the back. Just be very careful with this first stitch. Just make sure you don't pull the yarn too tight, because otherwise it's going to cinch your square. It's going to look a bit dented. So you just carefully hide it behind the stitches at the back. So just make sure you don't pull too hard there so that it doesn't look uneven. Yep, so just weave it in behind these stitches, and same thing, do a little back stitch. Do that several times, and then once you're happy and you think it's secured enough, you can trim the yarn. I do suggest though, if you are making a big piece like a blanket or even clothing, that you weave in and secure your yarn with a double knot in several places, just to make sure that your work will definitely not unravel. And that is our traditional multicolored granny square all done. Now, if you want your square to have more defined corners and straight edges, you can use a blocking board. So, a bit like this one. Or you can also use a foam board and some pins. That will do. I hope you enjoyed this granny square tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crocheting!